After Jeffery finished eating Tom's surprisingly delicious human food, she made her way to the bathroom. Polishing her claws and cleaning underneath her scales, she was ready to leave. Tom, on the other hand, was still adjusting his school uniform. She hadn't realised how many pieces of clothing he had to wear. Her school uniform consisted of only 2 pieces, a shirt and a skirt. "Tom, why are there so many pieces to your uniform?" she asked. Oh, I don't really know. I was given this to wear by my home government. Why, does it look bad? He asked, and Jeffery tensed. No, not at all. You look great, she exclaimed, and Thomas smiled as he straightened his blazer. Thanks. Okay, let's go, he said. Thomas and Jeffery walked out of their dorm, walking to their school that was only a few blocks away. While they were walking, Thomas noticed a large bipedal insectoid sentient holding a camera, resembling an 8-foot-tall praying mantis cockroach hybrid, which began to follow him and Jeffery. It seemed to think that it was being stealthy, and it was half right. Jeffery didn't seem to notice it, while Thomas heard its heavy footsteps behind him. He decided to ignore the sentient, walking into the school, as he and Jeffery went to their first class of the day, which happened to be history. They took their seats as Mr. Hackett, another magistrate teacher, raised a claw to notify the class that his lesson was starting. Okay, class, today we'll be learning about the worst war in galactic history. I'm sure you've heard of it, the 12-Year War. This war was so terrible, the only way to stop our enemies was to threaten them with our concept of nuclear bombs. Mr. Hackett's voice was serious, and the mostly cheerful atmosphere of the class had turned somber. Thomas turned to look at Jeffery, who had a grim expression on her face. He stared at Mr. Hackett, confused. How could an entire species surrender after they'd just been shown a concept for something? Especially if that concept was just a nuke. Last time he had checked, humans had made antimatter bombs, powerful enough to destroy entire stars. Mr. Hackett spoke up, addressing the class. Remember, everyone, if this is too much for you to handle, you can leave this class for a little bit. Thomas liked the magistrate. His voice was gentle and sincere. He definitely meant what he was saying. How many died in this war? Thomas asked curiously. Mr. Hackett paused, lowering his voice. There were around 100 million casualties. It was truly a tragedy, he murmured. Oh, so like World War I and World War II combined, Thomas said. Mr. Hackett stared at him. What? The magistrate said slowly. They're old human wars, Thomas said, and Mr. Hackett paused. You humans have had 2 wars which added to around 100 million casualties in total? Mr. Hackett said slowly. Yeah, Thomas answered, and he heard soft thuds and bumps. He looked around to see that several of his classmates had fainted, and he stared at Mr. Hackett, who was clutching his desk. Who are you fighting? The magistrate's feathers were ruffled, and Thomas scratched their head. Ourselves? Thomas answered, and even more of his class fainted. How long did these wars last? Mr. Hackett breathed, and Thomas paused to think. Around 10 years in total, within 20 years of each other. Thomas watched as Mr. Hackett fainted as well, and he looked around. His entire class was out cold, including Jeffery. He quickly got up and fiddled with some of the buttons on Mr. Hackett's desk until a call started. Hello, this is the main office. How may I help you? A female voice said. This is Thomas Winters. I'm in Mr. Hackett's history class. My entire class is unconscious, Thomas said. There was a pause before the woman on the other end decided to speak again. Is this one of those things you humans are known for doing? Pranks, if I remember correctly. This is one of those, right? No, I'm being serious right now, Tom said slowly. He heard a quiet, oh no, from the other end, before the sound of audible typing greeted his ears, shortly followed up by a gasp. Stay right there, we'll be over shortly, the woman stuttered, as the call ended, but not before the scrambling of who's could be heard. Barely even 5 minutes later, around 20 nurses arrived, all of them gasping and panting, most likely thanks to their sprint from the other side of the high school. After what seemed like hours of questioning from members of the school staff, most of it just him proving that he hadn't done it on purpose, he was finally released. It would have been shorter if he hadn't had to hear the same questions multiple times by each and every member of the present staff. Sighing to himself, Tom decided to wait around until he would be allowed to check on Jeffery. He ended up wandering around the school, trying to memorize landmarks and other fascinating structures and furniture, whatever caught his eye. Another thing that caught his eye was an abundance of students staring at him. Whenever he would look their way, they tried to act as if they hadn't. It reminded him of that one insectoid he had noticed before class. He decided to walk around some more to see if the insect he had noticed previously was following him. Even if it did turn out to just be a coincidence, it would still sedate his boredom for a while. Or at least until Jeffery's eventual awakening. Valus had no idea what to think of this Hyumon, or whatever it was supposed to be called. It was so small and harmless looking that, at first glance, he had momentarily stopped producing pheromones after finding out the thing was a predator. A Hellworlder at that. Still, it shouldn't be that hard at least. That's what Valus told himself at the beginning. But by the Queen, he was wrong. Each and every second of his time spent around the small mammal was a constant struggle. Usually he could observe his oblivious targets with ease, but not the human. It seemed to be constantly on the lookout for an attacker. Subconsciously or not was another mystery in itself. So when he found out he would have to keep telling the guy, even after what he had done to his entire class, was soul-crushing. Even to the point of him meekly demanding some aid, to allow him a break every now and then during the job. The human had taken out his entire class. 20 other students, and his teacher! Valus trembled. He had to find the human again, who was Queen nowhere. He straightened his antennae and body, determined. He had a job to do, and Valus turned a corner and spotted the human a couple of feet away. Valus promptly ran in the opposite direction.